Alright, Jim and Ben here again, and in this video we're going to show you how to visualize and download the Aerosol inversion products from the Appalachian State University's NASA Aeronet site. Many of the details are very similar to downloading and displaying aerosol optical depth, and we went more into detail in that video, so we'll defer you to that if some things here are a little difficult, but we will try to emphasize some of the differences between downloading and displaying the inversions as opposed to downloading and displaying the aerosol optical depth. So let's get started. Okay, suppose we want to display the aerosol inversions. So just like aerosol optical depth, we would do the data display here under inversions. You can click on the map, but it's often a little time consuming and tedious, so we will just go directly to the Appalachian State link. Similar to the aerosol optical depth visualization, we can select a day. Any one of these green days has data. And there's levels through years 2010 through 2015. So we also notice that there is no level 1.0 data for the inversions as there was for the optical depth, and that's just because level 1.0 is not cloud screened, and you often get some very unphysical values for the inversion products, and so 1.5 is available but 1.0 is not. So let's select size distribution here, and we can see that for the 29th of January. I can select any other day and see the size distribution for that day. Okay, I can go back to previous years, for example 2013, and we see that level 2.0 data is available for this year in addition to the 1.5, and that's just because previous year's data is typically available once the data is reprocessed after we send the simul in for the yearly calibration at NASA. So we've got data back for 2013 but not for the current year. So let's first just look at a 2013 1.5 product. Here's the size distribution. Click on any of the other variables: refractive index, single scattering albedo, asymmetry parameter, phase function. Let's click on single scattering albedo because this is an interesting case here. Okay, if you look at this from the 4th of January on 2013, we have level 1.5 single scattering albedo. However, if we go to 2.0, we see that there is no single scattering albedo data available for that day. And that's a little bit interesting because it's shaded green. And if we go to size distributions, we see that data. So single scattering albedo, it turns out, needs to be used with caution. In other words, Aeronet only assures it as level 2.0 for days in which the aerosol optical depth is sufficiently high, meaning in greater than or equal to 0.40 at 440 nanometers. And that's a condition that's rarely met at our Clean Air Mountain site here in Pleasant Boone. So we only have about 19 or 20 of those days over a 4-year period. So we will not have much single scattering albedo from our site. Nevertheless, you may download it as desired. You can download the 1.5 as a rough approximation. We don't recommend using it as in any studies, as does Aeronet. Aeronet also recommends that you not use it. So that's the 1.5 and the level 2.0 data products. Okay, now that we've displayed the data, let's try to download it. And the procedure here is very similar to downloading aerosol optical depth. Instead of aerosol optical depth download tool, we go to the aerosol inversions download tool and we click on it. Okay, we go to the Appalachian State site and we come up with all of these boxes that we can check to select which products we wish to download. These top boxes are the radiance measurements that were used to generate a lot of these. And if you're downloading these, you probably aren't watching this video. You already know how to download all of this. So we're going to skip that for right now. And you can select given variables, extinction, aerosol optical depth, size distributions, phase functions, radiative forcing, again, use with caution as described in some of the Aeronet papers. Let's just, for simplicity, select everything but the phase functions. So suppose we don't know what we want right now. Let's just download it all. And so let's suppose we want level 2.0. And to minimize the number of points in this example, let's just choose daily averages. So we download. We get this same message here stating that you must accept the terms for the use of this data. We accept, and now we download the file. And this is a Dubovik file named after one of the architects, Oleg Dubovik, of the Aeronet data processing group. So we take this and we move it over to the desktop so that we can open it in Excel. Okay. Now we'll show you how to open this file, very similar to opening the aerosol optical depth. So we go to the blank workbook. There's not the only way to do it, but this is the way I do it. So go to open, go to computer. We've got it on the desktop. We want all files. Make sure it's not just Excel files because we want this is not an Excel file, and we hit open. Okay, right here, very similar to the dialog box that appears when we try to open the file with the aerosol optical depth. If you look here, it's a delimited file, comma delimited. The commas separate the fields, so we select delimited, change this to comma. Treat consecutive delimiters as one. There are a few places in the file where it'll have multiple delimiters, and we do the none for the qualifier. Go to next. The first column is in the format day, month, year. So the 9th day of the 10th month of 2011, or October 9th. So we change this to day, month, year, and we're ready. Finish. And now we're able to open the file. This file has a total of 291 minus the 4 header rows, so 287 rows, 287 days of level 2.0. And that's much less than the 1.5 data because many of the days could have had clouds or for other reasons did not meet the quality assurance. And it's also because this does not contain the most recent data, which will become available after the yearly recalibration. So there's less days of this, but we recommend it for studies where higher quality is needed. All right. Aerosol optical depth is also a product in these files. But if you're only looking for optical depth, it's probably simpler just to download using the procedure we described before dealing with aerosol optical depth. We also go over to here, and you can get the intensive variables such as single scattering albedo and asymmetry parameter. These are down the list further, but let's look at the single scattering albedo, and you look and you see that most days have an NA, and that's just because the aerosol optical depth was too low for reliable retrieval of single scattering albedo. So we had, I believe, 19 or 20 days of single scattering albedo, which is not many. On the other hand, if we go over here and see variables such as asymmetry parameter, that's available every day in the 2.0 file. You'll get some columns over here which only have numbers on them, and these are the sizes, the size bins in microns of the particles. So for example, 0.05 corresponds to 0.05 micron size bin, which is 50 nanometers, and so on. And so these columns give you the size distributions, and then you go over here and you see all several other variables. Again, there's more variables in this file than many of you will ever use, and you can see the list of the variable names and what they correspond to in the AppleAir link, which describes Aeronet variables. They can also be found on the Aeronet website. And so this is downloading and visualizing Aeronet data products from the AppleAir or the Appalachian State's AppleAir station. We refer you to the Aeronet site for more detailed information. But this should get you started. Ben and Jim signing off. Have a good day.